There is a mythology almost no one in the Western world has ever heard of. It was practiced by more than 250 million people across Eastern Europe for over 1,000 years. It shaped the folklore of Russia, Poland, Ukraine, Serbia, Croatia, and a dozen other nations. And it was built on the single most unforgiving idea any religion has ever produced. The universe was born divided. Light on one side, darkness on the other. Two forces, equal in strength, locked in a war that began at the moment of creation. And unlike every other mythology we have covered on this channel, the Slavic tradition does not promise that the light will win. It does not promise that the war will end. It promises that the fight is permanent, that the darkness is not a problem to be solved, it is a condition to be endured. Forever. This is the mythology that gave the world Baba Yaga, the firebird, and the forests that an entire civilization believed were alive. And at its center stand two gods that almost nobody outside Eastern Europe can name. This is the story of Perun and Veles, the thunder and the serpent, the sky and the underworld, the war that never stops. Slavic mythology is the great gap in the Western understanding of the ancient world. We have libraries of Greek texts. We have the Norse Eddas. We have Egyptian tomb walls and Mesopotamian clay tablets. For the Slavic tradition, we have almost nothing. The Slavs did not write their mythology down. Like the Celts, they kept it oral. And when Christianity arrived across Eastern Europe between the 9th and 12th centuries, the conversion was thorough. Temples were destroyed. Sacred groves were cut down. The idols of Perun were dragged through the streets and thrown into rivers. What survives comes from three sources. The first is the writings of Christian missionaries and chroniclers who described what they were destroying, sometimes in enough detail to reconstruct what it meant. The second is folklore. The fairy tales, folk songs, and seasonal rituals that persisted in rural Eastern Europe for centuries after conversion, carrying fragments of the old religion inside customs that the church could not fully erase. The third is comparative mythology, reconstructing Slavic beliefs by comparing them to the better documented Baltic, Norse, and Vedic traditions they share roots with. From these fragments, a picture emerges. Not complete, not certain in every detail, but coherent enough to reveal a mythology of extraordinary power and a theology that understood something about the nature of the world that more optimistic religions chose to ignore. At the top of the world stands Perun, the god of thunder, lightning, war, and the oak tree. He is the supreme god of the Slavic pantheon, the ruler of the heavens, the striker of fire from the sky. His weapon is a thunderbolt, sometimes described as an axe, sometimes as a stone hammer. When lightning splits a tree, Perun has thrown his weapon. When thunder rolls across the steppe, Perun is angry. He is not subtle. He is not ambiguous. He is the sky made into a fist. At the bottom of the world coils Veles, the god of the underworld, of cattle, of water, of magic, of the dead, of music, and of trickery. He lives among the roots of the world tree, in the wet places, the dark places, the places where things rot and where new things grow from the rot. He takes the form of a serpent, or a dragon, or a bear, or a shadow that has no fixed shape. He is not evil. He is necessary. He is what lives beneath. Perun rules the sky. Veles rules everything under it. The oak tree, sacred to Perun, is the axis of the cosmos, and Veles coils at its roots the same way Nidhogg gnaws at Yggdrasil in Norse mythology. The parallel is not coincidental. Both traditions descend from the same Proto-Indo-European source. The thunder god above, the serpent below, the tree between them. The oldest religious structure in the Indo-European world. The central myth of Slavic religion is a cycle. Veles steals something from Perun. In some versions, it is cattle. In others, it is Perun's wife or his son or rain itself, the water that the earth needs to survive. Veles takes it down into the underworld. He hides it. He hoards it. The world above begins to dry. The crops wither. The rivers shrink. The living world suffers because something essential has been pulled beneath the surface. Perun pursues. He descends from the sky in a storm. He strikes the earth with lightning. He chases Veles across the landscape, and Veles runs, shape-shifting as he goes, hiding behind trees, beneath rivers, inside animals. Perun splits the trees, he boils the rivers, he tears apart whatever Veles hides behind. The storm is not random weather, it is a god hunting another god through the fabric of the world. Perun catches Veles. He strikes him down. The stolen goods are returned. Rain falls. The world is restored. The cycle is complete. And then Veles rises again. He returns to the roots, he begins to steal again, and the whole cycle starts over. There is no final battle. There is no Ragnarok, no Titanomachy, no decisive moment where one side wins permanently. The war between Perun and Veles is the mechanism by which the world functions. Summer is Perun's dominance. Winter is Veles ascending. The storm is the battle. The calm after the storm is the temporary peace before the next theft begins. Behind Perun and Veles stands an even older duality. Belobog and Chernobog, the white god and the black god. Light and darkness personified as two forces that have existed since the moment the universe divided itself in two. The historical evidence for Belobog and Chernobog is contested. Some scholars argue they are genuine pre-Christian deities attested in early sources. Others argue they were invented or exaggerated by Christian chroniclers to map Slavic religion onto a good versus evil framework they already understood. The truth is probably somewhere between. The duality of light and darkness in Slavic thought is too deeply embedded in the folklore and ritual practice to be an invention. Whether those forces were worshipped as named gods or understood as principles that operated through gods like Perun and Veles is the part we cannot be certain about. What matters is the structure. The Slavic cosmos is binary. Not good against evil, because Veles is not evil and Chernobog is not simply the antagonist. The darkness is not a corruption of the light. It is the other half of reality. The world needs both. The crops need both sun and rain, both the sky's heat and the underground's water. Life needs death. The visible world needs the underworld. Remove either side and the system stops. This is the theology that makes Slavic mythology unique among every tradition we have covered this season. Every other mythology promises resolution. The Greeks gave Zeus a throne. The Norse gave the world a rebirth after Ragnarok. The Aztecs believed the sun could be kept alive if the price was paid. The Slavic tradition promises nothing. It says the fight is the point. The balance is maintained not through victory, but through perpetual, exhausting, necessary conflict. When Prince Vladimir of Kiev converted to Christianity in 988 CE, he ordered the idol of Perun torn from its hill, tied to the tail of a horse, beaten with sticks, and thrown into the Dnipro River. 12 men with rods walked alongside it, striking it as it was dragged through the streets. The people wept. The chronicle records that detail. The people of Kiev watched their god dragged through the mud and they wept. But the conversion did not erase what it replaced. It buried it. Perun became Saint Elijah, the prophet who rides a chariot of fire across the sky. Veles became Saint Blaise, the patron of cattle. The thunder god and the underworld god survived by putting on Christian clothes. The feast days stayed the same. The rituals shifted just enough to satisfy the bishops and not enough to lose their original meaning. Kupala Night, the midsummer festival when young people jumped over bonfires and set wreaths floating down rivers, persisted across Eastern Europe well into the modern era. The church renamed it the Feast of St. John, but could not change what people did on it. The bonfires were Peruns, the water was Veles's. The boundary between the worlds was thin on that night, and no amount of Christian theology could convince a Slavic village otherwise. Baba Yaga, the witch who lives in a hut on chicken legs in the deep forest, survived in fairy tales that parents told children for 1,000 years after the old temples were destroyed. She is not good and she is not evil. She tests you. If you are brave and clever and polite, she helps you. If you are not, she eats you. She is the forest itself, neither kind nor cruel, simply operating by rules that were old before Christianity arrived and will be old long after it matters. This is the end of Season 1. 10 mythologies, 10 civilizations, 10 different answers to the same question. What kind of universe do we live in? The Greeks said it was a cycle of power, fathers overthrown by sons, the same violence repeating across every generation. The Norse said it was a system with an expiration date, and the proper response was to fight anyway. The Aztecs said it was a machine that required fuel, and the fuel was human. The Egyptians said chaos could be contained but never destroyed. The Hindus said a god could swallow the end of the world and carry it in his throat forever. The Japanese said death was a broken promise between two people who once loved each other. The Mesopotamians said you fight demons with worse demons. The Chinese said a god died so the world could exist and we live inside his body. The Celts said the gods had to kill for their land the same as everyone else. And the Slavs said the war never ends. Light and darkness, thunder and serpent, sky and root. The fight is not a failure of the system. The fight is the system. And the only thing any of us can do is stand in the middle of it, pick a side, and keep going. 10 mythologies, 10 answers. The Slavic one says the war between light and darkness never ends and was never supposed to. Is that the bleakest theology we have covered this season? Or is it the most honest? Which mythology's answer stayed with you? That is the end of Season 1 of Gods and Empires. 10 mythologies, 10 origin stories, 10 civilizations that believed something so completely they built entire worlds around it. Season 2 begins with war, the greatest divine battles ever told. Gods against titans, Aesir against Vanir, Horus against Set, Thunder against Serpent. The gods we met in Season 1 are about to fight. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The wars of heaven are coming.